Welcome to Sports Court. I'm Tamara Holder. Coming up on July 30th is UFC 201. The main event is the much-anticipated 5-round welterweight championship between Robbie Lawler and Tyron, the chosen one, Woodley. Woodley has a 15-3 record with 5 knockouts and 5 submissions. And he's in studio with me today to talk about the fight and hopefully not submit me. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, first very serious question. Are you playing Pokemon?
I am not playing Pokemon. I've heard about it on every social media you can think of. I just don't need one more thing I'm gonna be addicted to.
What else are you addicted to besides?
I mean, I train. I mean, I don't have addictive personality, but it's just like I'm training. I'm focusing on a fight. I got so many different, training sessions that if I do that, I'll be late to practice. And,
right. It's a mindset, right? You have to get yourself in that frame of mind and prepare yourself for the fight. When does that occur to you? Is it a month out? Is it 2 months out? When are you just zoned in on your fight?
It happens at different points in different fights. Some fights, it's immediate. Some fights, it takes me training, preparing, becoming familiar with my opponent and myself. And then sometimes, I've had a fight where right as I was walking out, it clicked in. I felt like I was going to be victorious. I saw myself standing over my opponent in victory, and that's when I knew I was ready. So it just depends. I hope I never have that happen again because I was freaking out until that last point, but it just depends.
Interesting. So speaking of your opponent, Robbie Lawler is your opponent, and we actually created a screen of what he recently said about you and not being a teammate. If you guys can pull up the screen. I don't really look at him, meaning you, as a teammate. A teammate's a guy who's in there every day, grinding, making other guys better, building the atmosphere. I don't think he's been down there for 2 years, and he was rarely down there before. He's not one of my teammates. What do you make of that?
How many centers you see going out there and practicing with the wide receivers? How many defensive ends you see training with the running backs? It's not the type of team sport where you have to train with the same person. If I was in Florida, if I lived in Florida, I would not be training with Robbie Lawler because we're in the same division and at some point we might bump heads. He's not in there training with guys preparing lower-level pros for their fights. He's in there training himself. He has a certain group of training partners to mimic whoever his opponent is, whether it's me, whether it's Carlos Condit. He has people mimicking his opponent. So for someone to make a claim that I'm not a teammate, well, I am American Top Team. I'm what the team encompass, the respect, the honor, the discipline. I own an American Top Team. So with my own money, I've invested into the gym. I've recruited for the gym. I've trained people. I've been a coach. I've done every layer. And I started from amateur all the way to the point of world champion with American Top Team. So I think it's funny. He's been with the team a couple years, and, He
has a big mouth, it seems.
Many of the coaches haven't been there as long as I have. So it's just.
Why do you think he said that?
Because in general, I think when you have anxiety about an upcoming fight and the person possesses the skills and abilities to take that belt from you, and it feels a little unfair that you live there, you train there every day, and the person who technically is out of sight and out of mind, occasionally in the gym, that he can fight you and he can take your belt. But in general, I own American Top Team.
Yeah, well, another thing that I find is really interesting about you outside of the ring is the fact that you grew up in Ferguson, Missouri. You played competed on the wrestling team at Mizzou, where the students were protesting in support of the Black Lives Matter movement and racism at the school and throughout the country. What is your position on that? And what do you think we can do in America and as athletes to make this a less divisive country and issue?
Well, it's crazy you say that because if you think about in 1996, Muhammad Ali lit the torch, and we lost him this year, and I feel like it's our job. That's symbolic of him passing the torch, not only just to myself, but any athlete who has a platform that can reach, that can impact, do anything positive. The Ferguson issue is a very true issue. That was actually my street, that the rioting and all this stuff. So it's not like I lived around the area. That was my area. And I've been involved with a lot of racial profiling, police officers, but I've also seen people live up to those stereotypes. I think in general, as a society, we need to have more personal responsibility. We need to look in the mirror. We need to treat people the way we want to be treated. That's going to solve the majority of our problems immediately. That's the fastest way to say it. It's easier said than done. Also, I like to be educated. If I'm going to speak on a topic, I want to know all the facts.
Right.
You know, when I was at Mizzou, I had a different experience. I was an athlete. I didn't have time. You know, I was held to a different standard because I had to watch film, I had to train, I had to wrestle, I had to travel, and then I had to make a certain GPA higher than the normal student to stay academically eligible. So with that said, I saw some racism, but I was so focused on wrestling, I was so focused on the task at hand, I kind of brushed it off. But the general public student might have had a different opinion or a different experience. So I called and I talked to some of those students, and I wanted to see what their experience was in Mizzou.
Back to focus and not playing Pokemon. What is your focus for this fight? You are good at knockouts, you're good at submissions, it's 5 rounds. What is your game plan, if you can share that without Robbie seeing this?
Well, Robbie can say it all he wants. Robbie has to be able to stop it, and I think that's the problem. My game plan is being unstoppable. It's being the person that can wrestle. And right when you think you figured out how to stop my takedown, I'm punching you. Right when you feel like you can defend the punches, I'm putting you on your back. And when you get down, you think you got up, you're getting put right back down. So I think I have the ability and the skill set to do all the different martial arts that are included in the sport. And then I'm fast, and then I punch hard, and then I'm tough. So when you add all these things together, my goal is to get as much of that out in 25 minutes. 25 minutes is a long time to focus on anything. Right. You know, to sit there and read a book for 25 minutes straight, to go and play a video game for 25 minutes straight, it takes a lot of focus. And when you got somebody with a completely different game plan sitting across the cage, it's hard to keep that focus. So that's really my goal.
All right. Well, you're the chosen one, so we hope to see you win on the 30th.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Thank you all for watching. Sports Court is adjourned.